All right, welcome back to the New Equity Network Show. Michael Yorba, your host, broadcasting to you live on the AM 1160 KBCE DFW Business Authority Network. All right, we've got David Duggan, CEO Viral Network Inc., on the show with us today, and he is really an online marketing guru for public companies, dubbed the term on online IR and now performance-based IR. David, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being here. All right, we're going to be bringing David back on the show here. I think we're going to have to bring him back on another line. We brought him out. The reason I've got David on the show is because one of the biggest issues that any business faces is marketing. You've got to be able to compete and get your message out and drive either customers or investors to your company. Sometimes they're private, sometimes they're public. It all works on being able to move the money and being able to get the attention of the people you need to do business with. David is an expert, and he does this in a huge market. All right, David, welcome back to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate it.
All right, my pleasure. I'm glad that we were able to overcome our little technical difficulties. We'll get through that. Of course, you being in the tech world, you know all about that kind of thing, right?
No worries at all.
Let's get a quick background for our listeners and for the new listeners that have showed up on what you do, what your company does, and then we'll dive right into the relevant social media that you're working on for public companies.
Sure. Yeah, and as you just mentioned, Viral Network Inc. is the company that I'm currently the CEO and founder of, and really is just consolidated every single way that you can tell a story online. We have the ability to do that in-house. And by internalizing all these efforts, we've been able to dub a new program called performance-based online marketing, or performance-based IR, where we take the risk to deploy the message all across the web, and the public company or client only pays when someone actually is interested and wants to find out more. So in order to achieve this and put all this together, I have a rather interesting background where was lucky enough to become a managing director of a marketing firm at the age of 19. Learned all sorts of things about marketing itself, the psychology behind everything, and then got into online marketing really quick after. And was lucky enough to make some money while doing that, so naturally I wanted to become an investor. That's probably the best job in the world. And I learned a lot about investing, but not because I did well. It's because I got taken advantage of and learned what not to do pretty quickly, as I'm sure a lot of investors can relate with. So over time, by combining my knowledge of marketing and my desire to invest, the two ended up merging and going hand in hand. And through trial and error in the last, sort of 8 to 10 years has been what has put together the performance-based package that we're now seeing in Viral Network.
Okay, performance-based to me means you pay when you have success. Let's drill down into that and get a clear definition of what that means to people that may not know.
Yeah, exactly. In the online world, we're able to put out the message, so the advertisement all across the web, continuously and until the minimum amount of people actually click to find out more. So all of the exposure, the awareness, that's usually what people pay for. And that's just not good enough for a public company. It's great to have a big number of people that might or might not have seen your story, but the only thing that really matters is when someone actually is interested by those advertisements and digests the full story. So typically we create a landing page for each of the companies, and that landing page is designed to tell the story in the best, simplest way possible. And then anytime a new person visits that landing page and digests the entire company's information, that's what's considered a result or ultimately a conversion. And a large number of those people that do join or that do come on the landing page will convert over as an email subscriber, so the company will end up with an asset at the end of it as well.
Okay, let's talk about the relevancy of social media for public companies. What have you found out there?
Sure. As of right now, there's a lot of misconceptions. Social media is a very big term, and we get so many different things thrown at us from the media and the younger generations using social media. So over the last 4 or 5 years in helping public companies get into the social media space, there's been a lot of consistencies and misconceptions that public companies have had just about social media in general. So the first thing I want to do is point out what social media is not. And for a lot of public companies out there, it's probably going to be a relief to hear this, that it is not a place for you to entertain the general public. And believe it or not, that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that people have this idea that social media is all about being social and entertaining everyone and putting out funny things and having opinions about everything that's going on. So the biggest pushback a lot of companies have with being on social media is that they just simply don't have time to come up with all this content. So that's the number one thing I want to squash, is social media has nothing to do with being social if you're a public company and you're regulated. All it has to do with is an environment where you can grow an audience and deploy the content that you're already going to be putting out. So if you change the way that you're thinking a bit and don't stress out about having to create anything new, and as a public company, there's going to be information that goes out in the form of news releases or company updates, either on the website or through the email list. So whatever is already going on, the facts about whatever the company is already doing, that's the only thing the company needs to worry about to actually put out. I don't think anyone in the social media world is expecting a public company to entertain them all day long. All they're wanting from the public company is to get updated information when that information comes out. So the most important thing about social media is the audience that you're able to grow that have opted in to follow you. So it's really just the 21st century version of email. All public companies are aware of the internal email list being a big asset, and the more subscribers you have, the more people will find out about your news and updates. So social media should be looked at the exact same way. The more subscribers you have, the more people will eventually see it. But the big difference is that social media encourages people to share information to their entire networks. So social media is not just a new version of email, it's email on steroids. Some very small networks on social media, even just a few hundred people, can actually have a news release go to tens of thousands of people if just a couple of those people share the news. So yes, it's absolutely relevant. It's fundamentally necessary now that all public companies have a presence on social media. Whether or not they're active or engaging isn't the case. It's just about giving the general public and their shareholders somewhere for them to connect and engage with them.
Now, social media is such a fast-moving, evolving target. There's even commercials about it. Some guy rides up in an elevator, and two guys who are delivery boys are, hey, we're on this. And then by the time he got his staff going down that direction that he heard was the latest hot thing, it was already out of favor and out of fad. So what do you say about staying on point with where the hot spot is for where people are actually feeling that this is where I'm going to get the best information here, and what I did last year, it's passé. It's not where I get my news anymore. How about that landscape, that moving target?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And for a lot of the public companies out there, it's not going to be too relevant, the new social media platforms, because social media has evolved enough now that we've got the giants established. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google+, etc. Those ones are the giants, and they're here to stay. So having a presence on those is the first step. Fundamentally, you got to do it. And the other supplemental social media sites that pop up here and there, they're relevant for niche companies or products that, if you're a local brand and you're trying to get to actual consumers that are, local to you, there's going to be all sorts of different social media platforms that are relevant to you. But if you're a public company trying to communicate to all potential investors across North America, then the big social sites are the ones that are the most useful for you. But the way that we approach this through Viral Network is to try and track the individual sites themselves and always see what's happening and changing is so daunting that we took a step back and said, what actually matters? What are people actually doing on social media that's relevant to the public companies? And all it comes down to is communication. People are communicating with one another. So we took a step back and said, if we can track the communication, then it doesn't matter if you're at the front lines of figuring out what platform people are using. Just go with where the results are. So the social listening tool that we have has the ability to track any conversation that takes place online in any public forum about whatever topic is relevant. So, for instance, if we're tracking anytime anyone mentions one of our clients, a public company XYZ, at the end of the month, we'll see that maybe maybe 600 different people mention the company online. Maybe 150 of those came from Facebook, 200 came from Twitter, but then you're going to see all the random ones you would have never even thought of. There's going to be a whole host of people who talk on chat rooms, blogs, forums. And so if you're monitoring from a big picture the activity and people's actions, then it doesn't matter if you're at the front lines of trends or not. You're just looking at results. So that's the way we approach it. And then basically the entire web, all social media sites, every website, every communication platform is trackable and accessible through our platform.
David, let's take a break here. I want to get into that more on the other side and also staying compliant while using social media, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back with David Duggan, CEO, Viral Network Inc., viralnetworkinc.com, and we're going to talk about a lot more on this topic that is really, really cutting-edge information. We'll be right back.